Welcome to The Ancient Way. I'm James.
I'm Marlia. And today we have a special guest, Anthony Smith.
Very special guest.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to get into a couple of different things. We gave him some prompt questions, but who knows where it's actually going to go.
Yeah, it's pretty much open field for us.
Oh, yeah. We're really just going to one of the big things I wanted to have Anthony on is to really hear his story about how the supernatural has intertwined his life, because he came into this Christian life like with a vengeance. So he ran up in it.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things I really wanted to hear his story on. But we have a couple of questions that we're going to ask all of our guests just to see what they think, just to see where their head space is, see if we like them or not. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No. Okay, Anthony, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Do you believe in life on other planets?
Yes, I do, but I'm not sure if we in this plane in existence will ever come into contact with them.
So what plane are you talking about? The physical plane?
Yeah, like this timeline.
Mm.
So one of the thoughts that I've had in the past is what if when eternity comes, and Jesus rules over the earth, right? What is it, for 1,000 years?
Yeah.
For the millennial. What if during that time we're reaching other galaxies, even other universes, preaching the gospel?
Yeah.
What if, what if they've never experienced darkness and they're not allowed to come here yet because
darkness did never infiltrate them.
Yeah, they can't.
Oh, wow.
They can't interact with it.
Yeah.
And so they have to wait for our world to be redeemed.
Mm.
Or what if there's other, we're meant to redeem other areas?
Yeah.
That's a fascinating thought.
Yeah. Because you think about Star Trek and Star Wars and all these different movies, and they're traveling the universe, especially Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah.
Where they're going, that's the one where
I'm Star Wars, not Star Trek.
So Captain Picard, the X-Men.
Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart. There you go. He's him and his crew are going and basically finding other civilized planets and seeing if they're ready to be exposed to life outside of their world.
Here's a thought.
They're just on an exploration mission, though. What's up?
What if there is other life out there? And what if Jesus paid the same price in their universe and we're all walking out these redemptions? And what if we eventually meet and then we all know who he is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Well, I mean, you hear the scientific argument, there's just far too much, planets, space, for there not to be life,
Totally. It's it's expanding all the time.
That it's all the stars we can see presently in the universe is only our galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
We're only seeing our galaxy, and there's trillions of galaxies.
Think about just the limited space that we really have. If our vision is very limited.
You mentioned science.
Mm-hmm.
You know how a lot of times science and then God or religion, they collide, they're incompatible. I was thinking I wrote something down. I was just looking for it, but science is actually humanity's mandate of spreading heaven on earth and naming the creatures. And if you think about it, science is naming what exists.
Mm-hmm.
It's us subduing the earth in that sense, What did God say to Adam? Just go out and name all the animals, everything you see, name it.
No, yeah.
It's not like this conveyor belt that brings elephant, cow, tree. It's like an exploration. It's the world is our frontier and we're able to go out there and claim it.
You hear Paul talk about all of creation speaks of his existence and the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And so if all of creation is pointing back towards God, then shouldn't our what do you call it? Ordate? No. Our mandate be to explore that and see how it points to God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And if you look at it and they're finding out more and more that a lot of scientists are going from atheism to there has to at least be a God. Maybe they're not choosing Christianity, but they're saying there has to be a creator.
Yeah.
Like the more that they're finding out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think about quantum physics
Oh,
and
yeah.
how you know, electrolytes can be
Electrons.
Electrons, sorry.
Gatorade.
Can be two places at once. Like
Oh, yeah.
some of this,
And they
things is-
respond to each other
Yeah.
no matter the distance.
Yeah,
Wow.
Exactly the
I
same.
didn't know that.
yeah.
Mhm.
You should watch that movie. And anyone who's listening, it kind of has some propaganda, but it's still so fascinating. But it says it's called "What the Bleep Do We Know?"
Mhm.
And it's basically them kind of unfolding quantum physics.
Oh.
And you know that there's that guy, the Asian guy, who's like really prominent in quantum physics and physics in general. I can't think of his name. I'm sorry for calling you Asian guy if you ever listen to this, but he is so cool and like he's young.
Yeah.
So he's been since he was so young when he started. He's been around. Like you'll see him in so many different
That's
things.
cool.
Like even like you know, Netflix.
Oh, wow.
Like, you know, big Netflix shows like I'm sure he's on the Morgan Freeman one.
Oh yeah.
So
Morgan Freeman's his shows, even if the content sucks, it's Morgan Freeman, and I
No
just
doubt.
love that
yeah,
dude.
there's something so comforting about him.
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to him talk, like I have very limited times, but the times that I have, it's like this guy's solid, like
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't put up with the crap of,
Oh, yeah.
of like, you know, people trying to steer him to support something that maybe, you know, is the current agenda. He's
Yeah.
like he'll just without even batting an eye
Mm-hmm.
directly contradict it and be like, "No, I'm not into that." Like
Yeah.
you're not
That's
pulling
funny.
me into that.
He has like 2 shows, and he'll go to all these different cultures and religions and stuff. But he just like loves people, and he gets to go in, and
Mhm.
I don't know, he feels safe to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's cool.
So,
Well, do you have that follow-up question about that?
about the planets,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, we kind of blew it out of the water.
Oh, okay.
It's not even worth it.
Okay.
It's silly. It's not. It's just
Well, maybe the next guest we'll have to circle back to it.
I think so.
Mhm.
I did have this morning on my way here. I was praying for us and about us,
Mm-hmm.
and I had this overwhelming sense of joy. Like I'm sitting in
Mhm.
here with like 2 of my best friends. They all are family to me, legitimately. And it took me back to like growing up, my friends. It's like, in life, you grow up, you have like high school, you got your core group of buddies sometimes. You have like
Mhm.
your best
Yeah.
friend. And then you move on, you get jobs, and then maybe you meet like a coworker, and then y'all kick it off, and y'all are like best buddies. There's always like changes though, like they fall off.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to have like some best friends that we would always make things together. And like in my mind back then, I was like, one day we're just gonna be friends forever, and we're gonna grow up and make stuff together
Yeah.
and just do stuff, and it's gonna be incredible. And then one day, like my best friend told me, he was like, well, I'm going to go pursue this career. And he's like, if they were to offer me a job in like, California or some other state, he's like, sorry guys, but I'm out. Me and my family, we're going that way. And me at that point, prideful and like, I was like, yeah, I do the same thing. But it hurt. Like
Oh,
on the
yeah.
inside, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's not like ride or die with
Yeah.
my friends,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So I always had that longing. I always had it from that, all up until this point. I was like, why? Why can't I have like this
Ride or
core
die
group
friends.
of family and friends? Like, is it like this worldly code of like, it just can't happen that way?
Well, you watch those movies and stuff like where there's like the Irish gangs and they're like all like friends, but they're like brothers and they're like they'll die for each other.
Yeah.
And it's always or any, it doesn't have to be the Irish, but like any group that's like that, you have such a heartbeat of like, I want that.
Yeah,
That is so cool. Like,
And why is it reserved for like gangs?
Mm-hmm.
It's like only in gangs if you think about it
Yeah.
now. Or, usually in the movies.
You don't see it a lot in normal
Yeah,
relationships.
that's true. I just thought about that.
But it's cool because I feel like we have that.
I do too.
I really do.
Yeah.
I'm so incredibly thankful for it. I'm like, okay, that wasn't like a silly dream of mine that
Mhm.
didn't,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't meant to be.
But I think that's what the real Christian walk is, to be
Mhm.
totally honest. I
Yeah.
think it's people who like let their heart beat
Mm-hmm.
in what it was created to beat in.
Yeah.
And it is that one synchronicity
Mm-hmm.
where you do bind together with the people that the Lord has told you to bind with,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know?
And I think that's key is so many people want to create those bonds with just anybody they can meet, or even
Totally.
even in church, they're like, oh, I want to be accepted, I want to be a part of it. But I'm like, no, there has to be this like divine almost orchestration or stamp upon like, no, I've made it, like I'm exceedingly pleased that you guys have become friends.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's something there that like you can feel, even just like the energy or the vibe of conversations instantly steering into like your calling.
Yeah.
And it's like you're both causing each other to move forward.
Oh, yeah. You know, one of the things I really do believe is that we will, for the people that, like the Lord, I believe will always orchestrate people together and like bring them together.
Mm-hmm.
You don't
But
have to like go after it. It's like
you don't.
hardcore.
You
Yeah.
don't. You actually just yield to the Lord, and He, again, that, what is it, like Luke 12:31? Like He'll
Mhm.
give you everything.
Yeah. Delight
Like
in
the
the
king.
Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. That's like one of my favorite
That's like
ones.
Psalms 3.
Yeah, that's in
It's in
Psalms.
Psalms. Yeah.
Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these
Mhm.
things are added to you.
Yeah.
And
Don't
do not
fear.
fear, little
Yeah.
flock, for it's your Father's good pleasure.
Yeah.
And it's like if you have a desire to be really close, then you'll get it. Like have
Mhm.
relationships. But I do think it's because we're actually bound together for eternity.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our callings are all intertwined together.
Mhm.
And it's not just like, oh, yeah, we get to be friends on this life. But it's like, no, it's even the next life.
Yeah.
And it's like
Mhm.
all the way through eternity.
Yeah.
So,
And you and I have talked, we've mentioned this in the podcast, and Anthony, you kind of, I think you wrote it down and brought it with you today, but we've said this before. What if we knew we were going to come into this world and like we were predestined to meet at this spot,
Mm.
like to reconvene at this
Mhm.
spot together?
Yeah.
And that's what it feels like. It feels like home. you
Totally.
know?
totally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into some questions for Anthony.
Yeah.
You
Question
can expand a little
number
bit.
one.
Well, and I just wanted to circle back to like what you were talking about friends, is like I had that desire, but like my friends were so sketchy. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I think that I say that because it'll open up into some of what we're going to talk about, like how I came to know God. But like all my friends were scandalous.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't trust my friend. Like if I had my wallet out, I could not trust even, well, except one friend, but every other friend, I could not trust to leave my wallet in the
Yeah.
room unsupervised.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I came from a place of like not trusting anybody,
Mm.
but wanting to. And I got burned a lot of
Mhm.
times because I was like, I'm like an all or nothing. Like no, like
Yeah.
if we're friends, we're hanging out every day. Like we're gonna be the best of buds. Like, you know. And I had to learn to reel that in.
Mhm.
But now, like coming to real solid people, real close
Yeah.
friendships, it's like, no, that's possible again.
Yeah.
So
And there is no like the separation and stuff. Like, oh, you hurt my feelings, I'm gonna leave. It's
Yeah.
like, no, we're in this.
yeah.
Nope. You talk about it.
The mess and all of it,
Mhm.
and you
And-
talk about it and grow out of it and grow through it.
And there's something that's even more beautiful about family or friendship that isn't blood,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
And that's the only thing, like the American and even most cultures is like, no, you're bound for life because you're blood. And like it's just it just is. It's not like nobody questions it. But at
Mhm.
the same time, if you really thought about it, it's like some of the people that you're bound to, if that, you know, if you really stood by that and
Yeah.
didn't have boundaries, and like obviously you want your blood to be redeemed and, you know, for you to affect your family in a positive way. But like some of these people are so toxic, yet it's like, oh, we're bound by blood, so I have to have you in my life.
Yeah.
Versus, no, like I chose you to be in my life. Like we chose
Mhm.
each other and we value each other so much that we're like family.
Yeah.
There's something more solid about that.
Well, if you think
Definitely.
about it, it's the bloodlines.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mhm.
because from the get go, it's been a bloodline war.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's either the seed of Adam or it's the seed of Yahweh.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, are you more loyal to your Adam line, to your flesh line?
Mhm.
Or are you more loyal to the line of the Lord?
And a little secret that when you choose the line of the Lord, it and no matter what will affect your family.
100%.
And you just have to be patient. It's a matter of time. Now, whether or not every person in your family will make that choice, that's a different story.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
every person will be continually exposed to the presence of God,
Mhm.
to the redeeming of characteristics and traits. And I've seen it happen to my brother, and it's been like almost like a trail of different people in my family. But like I've seen it happen to my brother, and now it's pressing up on my sister and my mom and my other sister. Like they're starting to really continually over and over be like, boom, like exposed to where like my sister now is like fully like talking about, I want to pray with you, Austin, my brother. And I want to go to church with you. And like we gave words and prayed over her. And like you could tell it was like, I've never experienced this. Like Austin said, he was like, I could feel her breathing slow when we started to get into the presence of the Lord and pray for her.
That's sweet.
And to give her words and pray. And she like later on was reflecting on it and told my mom even, and was like that, like she loved it. And she felt so special that we did that with her. Cause growing up we picked on her and like, get away, you stink or whatever, older brother stuff. But then my mom was like, why didn't you guys pray with me? Which she's always like she was a big, strong like person who the reason why I believe in what I believe, but she's kind of fallen away of like almost like, well, anything and everything is religion. Like God isn't just restrained to the Christian God. Like she's kind of gotten more New Agey and floaty and really just no responsibility.
Yeah.
So. All that to say, to circle back, it's like, but now she's like, there's more of an invitation to like pray.
It's pulling on her.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's a good spot to kind of set up for the questions.
The world will change around you.
It always will.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's why it's so important, which we kind of talked about on another podcast, but it's like forgiveness. Like everybody's got family junk. Like that's what that is. But when you walk in your levels of forgiveness and the more that you like release that thing, the more it goes out,
Yeah, and you don't have to force it. I think that's a big point because like coming into it at first, I became abrasive of like trying to like, no, you don't know. Like you got to go.
Totally.
And I had to learn, no, like God has a plan. He wants it more. And all I have to do is just be and love. Yeah. That's the main thing. Just love your family.
Be present.
Yeah.
Be present and love them.
And sometimes that means, hey, I can't be in relationship with you right now. Like, I need to heal and create boundaries and separate from you for a while so that when I am coming into contact with you, I'm not coming out of pain. I'm coming out of forgiveness and love. And to where it's like not even like, oh, I've forgiven you. Like some people think that's forgiveness. And to me, I'm like, no, you're still holding it over them. Forgiveness is like, hey, it's there. It's not forgetting about it, but it's like, hey, I've been so redeemed in that. Yeah. Like that doesn't even equate. Like, actually, I love you more because I've forgiven you, versus somebody who didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
Like, forgiveness will teach you and put you to that level.
Oh, yeah. I had a situation in my family where that happened. But there was a specific individual that it was so toxic just in my own person that I had to step away for a couple of years and like really heal. And I had multiple dreams about it. So I felt okay from the Lord about doing it. And anyways, long story short, when I had a dream about having communion with this person again, literally, like I was sitting down on a couch with them having communion. And I knew that was like, hey, let's restore the relationship. But when I started easing back in, because I'm not like, hey, let's just run into it. Like I believe that relationships also develop over time. But when that happened, there was not 1 ounce of me that like knee jerked, or it was like, no, my heart was so full of flesh. Like I could feel the way that they were feeling. And like I had nothing but love. Like love only covered them. And so that's been cool. Like just what you were saying, like to see that in my own life. It really is just a testament of really all that the Lord wants to redeem throughout the whole earth.
Because like boundaries in today's presence, it's like a buzzword. Like, oh, I'm setting boundaries. I'm doing me. Yeah. And like,
I'm isolating.
But and it's like, no, actually you're setting boundaries for your own selfish desires. And because you don't want to deal with that person, be around them. And it's like boundaries have been set like to where they're like, to me, boundaries should be set to eventually allow a reintroduction.
Yeah, absolutely.
But nowadays, it's like, no, boundaries are set for life. Like, oh, I finally ripped that boundary Band-Aid off and said, set that boundary. And so now we're never going back there.
They've used boundaries as self-protection versus using boundaries to let yourself heal.
Yeah.
Like I love that scripture in Proverbs that talks about like basically one who seeks isolation seeks his own desire.
Wow.
And it's like, what? Like when you hear that, you're like, dang. Whoa, wait, what? But then it goes on to say, and he rages against all wise counsel.
Wow.
And you're like, whoa. So you like isolate yourself from the people that could really be speaking to you because you want what you want. And then not only that, but when your friend or somebody, I'm talking about like somebody who's really isolating from being whole and healthy and walking through some. But then like, you know, if I come to you and be like, hey, you know, I feel this for you, man, and I'm wanting. It's like you rage at me and you get angry at me. So it's like, I was like, dang, that scripture fits so well in so many situations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's jump into this.
Okay.
All right.
Because we've been doing some good stuff. But
All right.
Okay, Anthony, how have you become aware of the supernatural, and what is one thing that opened you up to it?
So before we answer this, do you guys want me to go in the full like? Because that for one thing, it's like it's many instances, like. And I think people need to understand that not everyone is a one and done. Like, boom, I was completely convinced and 100%. My life changed 100% full turnaround. It's like, not when you have like generational
layers,
yeah. And not when you are in addiction, because, you know, I was in major addiction. Not when you're completely isolated from all your family. Yeah. Like, I'm not discounting it. It happens. And sometimes that happens to me, and like where I make like, you know, 50 level jump, like because I just had a supernatural profound experience with God. So anyway, so do you want me to go into the full details of the story?
I do, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think so.
So
I love your story though. That's why.
Yeah.
If you feel, if you want to, then absolutely want you to.
I mean, it always lights me up even till this day to talk about it. So but one is that I had, you know, it's like, hey, what made you aware of the supernatural? I think it was being exposed to the Bible as a kid, by my mom, my grandma, my grandpa, of them just telling me the stories of the Bible and telling me they are 100% real. Yeah. Not like, you know, this is up to interpretation, interpretation,
English.
You know, or, you know, like, yeah, that happened a long time ago, but it was like, no, this is sacred. Like, and so they did a really good job about that. And like, I remember one time, like, we were like, I probably was like 7 or 8, and my sister was like 5, and my brother, like, you know, if that's right, then like 9 or 10. And we were sitting in bed with my mom, and she read the story of the Tower of Babel. And, you know, like how they tried to build a tower into heaven. And I was just like, now knowing like, no, that wasn't like just like height wise. It was like they tried to build a portal into heaven. And really they were trying to get in contact with fallen gods. But that's a whole nother story. But
if you need more, go look at The Unseen Realm by Michael Heiser.
It'll really expose it. But, you know, these people weren't stupid, you know, like they were highly intelligent, and maybe not the same intelligence that we have today on this earth, but, you know, they were far more advanced in other intelligence than us, and especially spiritual intelligence. Like, you know, everyone was doing some type of sacrifice or whatever. It's because they understood principles.
Well, they were in communication with other beings that were giving them
It wasn't just these
answers,
like fat little
mysteries.
clay things that they built. Those weren't the idols.
They were doing DMT far before we were.
No doubt.
They probably were doing it a lot better than what we're doing it now. We're as in society, not us three. But
no, we don't.
Well, doing it.
We don't have
Hold on, I'm going to put this. DMT is definitely illegal in the way that you access the spirit realm.
Illegal access,
That is definitely illegal access. You can actually have the same kind of level of experiences through the Lord without any substance, without any coping.
I think if they did a study scientifically on somebody who goes into the spirit, I wouldn't be surprised if your natural homogeneous DMT that's in your brain and, you know, different areas is being released.
We produce it,
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, so
no doubt.
I think that, you know, it's like, hey, you can get strong and exercise, and then
With
you can
steroids.
take, or then you can take steroids. Yeah,
But you need nothing apart from him
exactly
to grow in
And
that.
here's something that will fascinate you if you ever look into biology. Every single thing that we need is already a part of our
100%.
molecular structure.
Mhm.
Like even like, oh yeah, like you take different foods in and stuff, like, but there's already homogeneous chemicals that will be used to break that down and make it available to us.
Oh,
And
yeah.
every chemical and hormone, everything, like even, I need psych meds. It's like, I have an imbalance. Well, yeah, you have an imbalance because your brain already has a lot of the psych meds that you're taking, or
Oh, yeah.
you're trying to, refrain them from being able to fully be produced.
Yeah.
But I'm no pharmacologist by any means, but so like to me, that's like, like he's given us everything we need already.
Yeah.
So,
Tower of
but
Babel.
anyways, yeah, Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
I'll go,
you're
guys.
good, you're
You
good.
guys keep me on track.
Yeah,
But yeah, she said that, and then she's like, the story, they build that tower, and then like they're like, we're gonna make a name for ourselves, and then like all of society in that area, which I think was like present day for them, like the world population. Like I don't fully know if the population had spread out yet to the entire world yet, but maybe it did.
It was about to.
It was about to, yeah. But and she's like, then like God like sabotaged it, and I remember just like, why wouldn't God want them to go to heaven? Like having like those weird thoughts, and you have that like, it's just honestly ignorance, but like, well, God does things, and we aren't supposed to question them. Like that was kind of that vibe, but when you get the context of like, no, they were trying to unleash like and in a very high advanced way, darkness, and it would have fast forwarded the amount of darkness that was released on the earth by like tenfold, and we probably would have had to have another flood if that were to happen. So God had like sabotaged it for really humanity's own well-being. But anyways, yeah, he's like, he changed all their tongues, tongues as being like different languages.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom was like, yeah, we were like, that happened? And she was like, yeah, like imagine that, like I'm talking to you like, hey, and then all of a sudden I'm like, like and we were like just busting up laughing, but it was so like, what the heck? Like,
yeah,
you mean like what? Like, and so like those stories, we would read them, and it wasn't like she wouldn't just die them down of like, maybe, maybe it was just like, they were already speaking different languages, or I don't know, like, just trying to dumb it down for us. She was like, take it for what it's saying.
But she like pushed your mind open just a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
She would do stuff like that, and then I would have like she told me about an experience she had. I remember these are just different things that kind of primed me to like not deny the things that I experienced. But like when she was a kid, she was like in like Awanas or something, something like that. Maybe it was Awanas, I'm not sure. But she was in like one of those type of like, child Bible study things. And they were worshiping, and she said that like she was moved by the Spirit, and she started speaking in tongues and quoting scriptures like back to back, like at like 7. Like she wasn't like, she didn't know this stuff,
She wasn't indoctrinated by it.
Yeah. And she said like it was like incredible, and like the feelings that she was having. And I remember thinking like, whoa, that's like pretty interesting. And like, my mom, she's not one to lie. Like, like that's one thing, like my mom always was like really pure of like, you don't do things because they're wrong. And it was hurtful to her heart if we did anything that was like that, and it wasn't ever because society says this is wrong. It was just like, no, that's wrong. Like you can't do that. Like, and she would be like hurt, like with people, cause we grew up in Fresno, California. And that is like a scandalous place. Like people lie to your face and smile and be like, and even if they're caught in a lie, it's not like, oh, like real remorse. It's like, I mean, what did you expect? Like, of course I'm lying to you. Like that's kind of how it is.
That's the culture.
There. Yeah. But so anyway, she she told us that, and then And then I think the earliest experience I had personally was when I was a kid, and I didn't put the dots till later on in my life, like in my probably mid-20s. And I'm 29 or 28 now. But like when I was sleeping, I had a best friend / girlfriend in, like, I don't know, I wasn't even preschool yet. It was the first girl I kissed, like, everyone egging you on, like, kiss her,
Oh yeah.
But we were like best friends, and we went to this daycare, Miss Tammy's house, which is a trip. She was like you see like Matilda and the evil like teacher or principal.
Yeah.
Like she was kind of like that.
headmaster.
Obviously not that brutal,
Yeah.
but like kind of like ugly, had like warts on her face, and just wanted to watch soaps all day and just like go sit in the corner, like,
Aww.
I know my mom had no clue because she was going to nursing school at the time. But anyways, yeah, so she was that friend there, and she came into my room at night. And my mom, at that time, we did a pallet that night for some reason. And so it was my brother, probably because my brother was having extreme demonic dreams, which I'll get into as well. And so my mom, me, and my brother were all sleeping on the ground.
Mm.
And then I think my sister and my dad were in the other room. And we were just like, having a little pallet. And I get woken up in the night by this girl, and she says, "Hey, let's go play." And so I went, and we went all across the city and played. And then we went back, and then I woke up, and I was in the bedroom. But it was the realest thing. Like, I was convinced that happened to me as a kid, and I woke my mom up, and I was like, "Mama, we just, went and played, and da-da-da." And she was like, "No, you were just dreaming, And so growing up, I was like, "Oh, that was just like a really intense, real dream." And then I was praying about it one time, and I felt personally that God told me, like, "Hey, no, that was real. You like, in a sense, astral projected into the spirit, like, because astral projection is part of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Ezekiel would do it, or not Ezekiel. Elijah would do it. Sorry, Ezekiel would do it too.
Yeah,
Ezekiel
Ezekiel got ripped up by his hair.
Yeah.
And he astral projected into the temple and saw all the like demonic worship that was happening by the priest. But that's a story from another day.
Yeah.
But and so
New
did
Age,
Elijah.
New Age just do it illegally.
Yeah. And so like
I feel like that's the one thing I do always want to contrast is like there are fallen ways to do these things or there are ways to do it connected to the Lord.
It's just spiritual intelligence, like
100%.
And there's a pure way, and then there's an unholy way.
There is working your way into it and like doing things to work things into your own flesh, and you work this thing up, or you just constantly yield to the Lord and the Lord leads you in these experiences.
And going back to the exercise, there's a natural, healthy way to get physically fit and even strong and like big.
That is best for your body.
Yes. And then there's a chemical enhancing way that will destroy your body and give you cancer.
And develop dependency on something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It even accelerates death.
Accelerates death, gives you cancer, will destroy your mind, cause you to go crazy. So, and that's the same thing about these fallen spiritual ways is like you open yourself up because you have to make agreements with other fallen spirits and different things.
Yeah.
You got to do the payments.
It's payment,
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing free except the blood of Jesus and his sacrifice. But so anyways, I had that experience. And so these were things that were just constantly priming me, God, putting me in ready. And then like my brother, he would always have super demonic dreams that were like so real that he would wake up traumatized. And sometimes he would be awake and still be seeing things. Like I remember one time he was scared and my mom was like laying next to him, and he like was like trying to go to sleep. We were all trying to go to sleep, and he looked at my mom, and I know this because he told me, but he looked at my mom and her face was contorted into a skull with maggots crawling out of it. And this is, mind you, a 6-year-old kid. This is, you don't just come up with this as a 6. And we didn't watch like crazy movies, and we weren't really exposed to that much. I mean, obviously might have been exposed to like a couple scenes of a horror movie or whatever, but not like enough to be like where you're imagining to that level of stuff.
Yeah.
And it like scared the living crap out of him. Like he, you know, in which later on he would have a lot more experiences that would also do that, expose me to that. But, you know, like my brother was abducted by people who were in cloaks, and they were going to try to kill him, but the Holy Spirit fully protected him. I had a lot of experiences with witches and different things like that, to where they would, you know, I would realize that they were practicing black magic, you know, but I don't want to get too much into that because that's a story for another time. But I think my my second experience as a kid was God telling me His greatest power, and I was in the bathtub and you know just playing and just doing your thing, and I think I was like 6 at that time, and I remember like, oh yeah, I think I'd watched a power movie or something, you know, something with superpowers, and I was like, you know, imagining like, oh yeah, like what if I could do that, and I don't know if I asked or what, but I was connecting to God in that moment, and like the thought of like, what is God's greatest power? Like what power? What is what power is the greatest that God has? Because he's obviously the most powerful. Like I knew that, and so and that's the power I want, you know, like because I want the most powerful power.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm sitting there, and then I get out of the bathtub. And I'm like, Mama, like. I know what God's greatest power is, and he's already given it to us. And she's like, what is it? And I said, love. And my mom was like, yeah, that's right. And I don't know what my mom thought in that moment, because imagine like a little 6-year-old kid telling you that, you
It's
know?
incredible, though.
And then now now that I'm more mature and understanding, I'm like, yeah, that is 100% true, you know? And that's where all miracles and prophetic words and power comes,
where power flows
is
from,
originated out of, and you know God is love. So anyway, so that was another one. And but so we'll get into my testimony, and in that you'll hear a lot of my supernatural experiences that happened, and you can ask questions or ask me to expound on anything. But so what happened is that I think it all started me and my brother and my sister experienced it, but not nearly to our levels, because she was the youngest and she was like the princess. But we experienced a lot of abuse from my father, and because he was an alcoholic and he grew up under abuse. You know, it's like that cyclical thing. But like, I mean, he would like slam us up against the wall. He would like in drunken rages be like, you know, like normal people who get spanked their child, it's like spank, you know, hey, you're not, you know, and nowadays our culture is like even straying away from that. But like him, it would be like, number one, in full rage mode. Like imagine a full grown alcoholic in rage, you know, like you see in the movie, and he would grab you by your like wrist, not even your hand, and lift you up off the ground and be spanking you to where it would fly you forward. And I remember like being spanked and like being flown around like in a circle, like probably 10 to 20 times. Yeah. So like he would like, you know, legit like beat us and stuff like that. And so we had a lot of that trauma going through. But a lot of it was like he taught us not to show emotions. Like he said, men don't cry. So like, even if we were crying when we were getting beat on, it was like, don't cry. Like, and you're like, you're beating the shit out of me. What are you talking about?
I'm not allowed to feel.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so, and my brother probably got more of the worst of it, because one is he wasn't my dad's son, but my dad never treated him like a different son. It was just that because he wasn't my dad's son, he didn't conform to the ways that my dad thought was right. Like, you know, being athletically intelligent, these things. Like he was athletically intelligent, but just not, that wasn't his thing, you know?
Not the way your dad wanted it.
And he didn't think like my dad. So because of that, he didn't conform to him as much. And so he would butt heads with my dad a lot more. And he was the oldest, so he's more responsible. So like he would do all types of stuff like that. But the alcoholism got like so bad that my mom was like, and then my mom was always just, always so, especially in our early years, so pure. The trauma kind of has kind of gotten her to stray away from that. But I remember her coming into our room and asking us permission to leave him after she had just gotten beaten by him, and just like, hey, I what do you guys think about me leaving your father? And we were all like, yeah, like
let's do the thing,
like, do it, because we, like, even in our young, like, we knew it was messed up. And so that was about when I was 10, and so they left. But I was taught never to show emotion. So, like, to me, it was just like kind of a foreign thing. Like, yeah, my parents are getting separated, I guess. Like, whatever. And so everyone else experienced it right off the bat and had like the worst time. Like, my brother went into crazy depressions and a lot of stuff there. And then, but it took me about 1 year to 2 years before I started acting out. And so, mind you, at this point, and I have to back up because, like, when I was like 7 or 8, on my birthday, which is kind of interesting, is when I did my first pray to get saved. Like, the guy was like, hey, does anyone want to pray to get saved? And I was like, I don't really remember if I've done that. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it, And so I did it. And then, which is so beautiful, because the guy was like, he's like, yeah, whenever somebody gets saved, all the angels rejoice. All of heaven rejoices. So we're going to rejoice with them and have a party. And so we ran around in a circle in the room, like blowing like little fake trumpets and like, woo. And
that's actually so sweet.
I know. It's like, that's how it should be. Not like, I'm a dear Lord, I repent. It was just like, now we're going to now we're going to celebrate.
Yeah.
And I think God, like, strategically always protected me, because I hear a lot of people, like, being burned by the religious society, but I didn't have that experience. It was kind of like God. My mom always said, God is love. You can always turn to God, and those things were put in me. Like, He's good no matter what. Like, to this day, I don't like ever blame God. Like, He can be wrong. I think that, to me, that's stupid. Like, that's unfathomable how you can think that it's God's fault.
Yeah.
But it's because the way I was raised and the experiences I've had with Him.
His nature to be contrary.
Yeah, and that's what I was raised in, His nature. I wasn't raised in His rules and His regulations and theology, which my mom did really well in. So, anyways, I started like doing drugs, and I mainly did a lot of smoking weed and drinking, but I would do like mushrooms and ecstasy, and I did meth before. I did like everything you could think, anything I could get my hands on, other than heroin, which I could get my hands on, but I knew better not to. And I could get meth for a long time, but I knew not to do that either. I just tried it for a weekend.
Yeah.
But all of that to be said, like, I was just like rebelling, like full blown rebelling, to the point that and my mom didn't know what to do, and so she would like ground me and try to protect me from like friends and stuff. And so one day I just had this like Logan of F it. Like, I got this slogan. Like, whenever I would go and like do a crazy BMX jump or jump off a cliff or whatever, it would be F it. And so then all of a sudden it transitioned to like, why do I listen to my mom? Like, how she can't restrain me. Like, what am I doing here sitting? Because, it got so bad that she made me live out of the garage and fed me gizzard stew. Like,
oh my gosh.
That's all you get to eat, and you're sleeping out in the garage because you don't know how to do it. Like, you don't listen. And my brother eventually got put out there with me, and then he started drinking like every day, and like he went into rehab, like right. And so then I was by myself in that garage like for a couple weeks, and I remember like, she knows she's just frustrated. Like, I don't really hold anything against her, but I remember she was because like I was stealing from my family at this time to fund my drug habit and doing all types of stuff. So like, even though I don't think I don't believe in you deserve punishment, but at the same time I understand why I was punished the way I was.
Well, your mom just didn't even have any tools. Like,
yeah, she didn't know what to do.
Yeah, and
so like she was like beating me. Like, I think this is the snapping point where I went fully dark mode. Like, where I started to not care about anybody. Is she like didn't know what to do, and so she like snapped, and she grabbed this broom, like those little like cheap metal
Oh
brooms,
yeah.
and she like went to hit me, and I put my arm, and it bent around my arm, like that's how, and she was like, ah! Like just full rage mode, and I remember like crying and then I was just like, why do I listen to her?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I sitting in this garage? Because I wasn't allowed to go out. Like I was grounded, and I was like, why am I sitting in this garage? Like there's nothing holding me back.
Yeah.
And so then and like because all my friends that I was surrounded, they didn't have parental authority. Like they could do whatever they wanted. So I was like, why can't I do this? And so I said, then that's when I had the slogan of F it. And my heart went cold at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, like, I would just tell my mom, F you to her face, and just like, I'm not listening. And so I started going down a road that was like, basically probably end up in prison or dead. Like,
yeah.
And so then I got in a fight, and I broke this kid's nose, and it got me into the judicial court system. And I was on house arrest, and at that point, my family had like basically disowned me, but I had to be on house arrest, so I couldn't leave the house.
Wow.
So they stripped me of my room. Like first, they stripped me of all my belongings, and all I had was a room and a bed.
Wow.
That's it. And
do you at least have underwear?
Yeah, I had clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
But like that's all I was allowed, and I was fed appropriately.
And about how old were you at this point?
Like 14 or 15.
Okay.
No, at this point, yeah, I was 14. Because it got to the point where I was like not listening, and she couldn't do anything, and then the judicial court got a hold of me, and so then it was kind of like I was screwed at that point. Like you got,
Yeah.
like because it was like if I don't listen at this point, then I get locked up,
Hmm.
and so I'm on house arrest, and still smoking weed. Like that's what led me to like go into juvenile hall so many times. But I'm on house arrest, and so they stripped me of all my belongings, and like everyone hates me because I steal from them. And because I don't care about them anymore, because I'm in so much pain and trauma that I don't realize that I'm just numbing, you know. And then they eventually stripped me of my room, and I was left to sleep on the couch in the den. Like we had 2 living rooms, and there was one that was like wasn't really used much, but it was like for sitting and reading and stuff. But it became my like sleeping area. That's all I did is just slept there, and nobody wanted to do anything with me. And so like they would be like in the other living room, like talking, laughing, watching TV, and I would be in the other room isolated. And that was like probably one of the most traumatic things that probably happened to me. And I just kept getting darker and darker. Like
that's that isolation.
Yeah, like F them, like F everyone. And but I couldn't leave, And so anyways, I kept smoking weed to numb that pain.
That's what I feel like is hell on earth, just by the way.
Yeah.
Like that's what that really is.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
and feeling the hatred of everyone.
Yeah.
Like they still loved me. I knew that.
Yeah.
But they couldn't trust me.
Yeah.
They were really angry and hated me. And so anyways, I was smoking weed, and then I got locked up for 45 days. But right before I got locked up, it was Christmas, and I didn't get anything. Everyone else got presents, but I didn't get anything because I was bad. And so it was Christmas, and I was like sitting there, and I honestly wasn't that upset that I didn't get anything because I didn't expect it. I was like, kind of like, well, I guess, I'm not surprised, kind of like that, And, but I was sitting there, and I had this epiphany, like, I say I'm a Christian because I still believed in God at this point. And I was kind of crying out to God, but I was like, I say I'm a Christian, but I've never read the Bible. Like that thought came to my mind, and it was like, I'm a hypocrite. Like, what? Like, how can you say you believe in something and you've never read the thing? Like for yourself. I've heard the stories and had it read to me, but never fully read the thing. So I picked up the Bible and started in Genesis and just started reading. And then I got locked up probably a week later because it's just my court date. And so they were like, we're giving you 45 days. That was my first sentence, 45 days in juvenile hall, and then another 2 months of house arrest after that. Like
Mm.
you serve and then you're on house arrest again. Like
Yeah.
which I had at this point had already been on house arrest probably 5 months. Like, which is like, dang, what about times there? But my court date had gotten pushed back and stuff because like the family was trying to sue my family, and some of them they're like, well, we need a real lawyer then because like we didn't expect them to sue us for me breaking that kid's nose.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, yeah. So I went in, and I remember I was like extremely, like I wasn't scared, but at the same time I was scared, but I wasn't like you know. And you know, at this point I thought like, you know, somebody's going to try to rape me and like I'm going to have to go like full blown cold. And at this point I did know how to fight because, you know, I had done Muay Thai kickboxing. So I was like, I'm not letting nobody mess with me. So I went into that more dark nature and just like get hard, but still kind of scared, you know, because like you don't know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
So I get in.
I think anybody who's really hard is super scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get in and then I go in there like, white boy, like they're all yelling white boy and like, we got a new one. And but then I realized like nobody's trying to rape you. Like not in this juvenile hall at least.
Yeah.
Like in the hardcore ones you might, but I'm not fully sure.
Yeah.
But like nobody's trying to rape you or stab you in this. But I mean you'll get in fights and you can be the brunt of like bullying, you know.
Yeah.
And you don't let nobody steal your food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I ended up fitting in pretty well. Like I had to get over the white boy because it was like white boy was the minority there.
Yeah.
Like, which is sad to think about, you know. Yeah, like I
So
had to
when
get
did
in several fights and stuff, huh?
When did you? So in this scenario, when did you feel like the Lord really came in
Well,
supernatural ways for you?
So like I started reading the Bible and it was like more and more like, whoa, like in like I would read it and it would be like advanced beyond my years of understanding. Like I would understand it more. And I kept violating my parole and going in and out, not parole, probation, in and out, in and out. And like I would go really hardcore after God while I was locked up.
Yeah.
And I spent a full probably 2 years incarcerated. Isn't that insane? Yeah. But through that time, I was reading the Bible. And so some profound experiences were like, one is I met this guy. Like we would have Bible study and then people would come in and there was always this like really nice guy, but everyone like didn't respect him and he was kind of a joke, to be honest. But he had a very good heart, you know. He was an old guy who kind of looked like Santa Claus. But he brought in a guest and it was an ex-con who told us about this, how he got saved. And he said that Jesus came into his room at the foot of his bed and woke him up and startled him and basically, I don't remember the specifics, but basically said like, hey, like, why are you fighting me? Kind of like Paul.
Yeah.
And but when he spoke, I knew it was real. And it was like, that's what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That's because like I would try to walk through the walls and stuff like, because I believed like,
yeah,
God is real and these things are real. And you know, and then so that was my first, and I asked him to pray for me. And I remember he was like really excited to pray for me because the way the questions and the things I was talking about, like they were like kind of shocked that I knew what I knew, being you know, some kid in juvenile hall.
Yeah.
And so he prayed for me, and I remember right after that going into the shower, because you need to take a shower, and singing the only Christian song that I knew, because I didn't know any Christian, but I knew one, and it was "Open the eyes of my heart, Lord." You know, I want to see you. But I was just singing that, and I was like rejoicing. Like,
how often do you sing that to yourself now?
Not very often. No, I know better ones now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the lyrics are.
Yeah, they're very beautiful.
Profound.
Yeah.
But which is interesting because the guy who made that is from this region.
Oh.
And I didn't know that. And at the time, I'm in California.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So he's from like Tyler region. But anyways, so I you know, singing that and I was rejoicing, and it was like ecstatic joy, and I could feel the presence of the Lord in this shower. Like you're by yourself. Like in juvenile hall, you don't take a shower with everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You're just locked into it. Like they lock you into a shower, and then you knock when you're ready to get out.
Yeah.
So nobody's like coming in there and like exposing you or just beating you up or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm doing that, singing, just ecstatic. And then I remember I was reading, these are just the small little experiences, but I was reading Revelations, and I got to the end, like all of sin is wiped away and every tear's, you know, wiped from the cheek, and like, you know, basically the millennial happens. And I remember it being so real to me, like getting sucked into the "it is finished" moment, and tears flooding down, and me in a prison cell rejoicing to the Lord, like thank you God, and feeling the light around me, and just like, and like screaming, but like, because I didn't want anyone to hear me, and like dancing, like, oh, thank you Jesus. So I would have these like profound experiences reading the Bible, and then, but my last moment, my last like drawstring for that period in my life was I really failed out again, and failed my parents and my mom. I violated my probation, got locked up, and they said, we're going to give you 45 days, which is interesting. They gave me the same thing that I had gotten from the start, which I had done 6 months, 4 months, like different time periods straight, you know, like longer stretches. But they were like, we're giving you 45 days and you aren't going to be on probation anymore because you're 18. Like I was already 18, so I wasn't even supposed to be in juvenile hall. But because I was still under the juvenile correctional, you know, system, I couldn't go into like prison, or not prison, but county jail. So they're like, hey, we're just going to basically, you're going to serve this out, and then you're going to be off probation. And if you get charged again with something, you're getting charged as an adult. And so, so they locked me up, and I was like, good, no more probation, because that's what kept me getting locked up, is I kept smoking weed and violating it, because I was surrounded by people who smoked weed, and I had no community other than my weed friends. Yeah. And so my mom comes and visits me one last time, and she says, we're not, and my stepdad wasn't there, but she would come sometimes, and she was like, we're not dealing with you anymore. Like, you're excommunicated. When you get out, like, we just can't do this anymore. Like, when you get out, you're gonna have to find your own way, and until you're right, like, we're not having a relationship with you, is what she basically said. And I remember it, like, it crushed me, like, whoa, like the reality of it. And then I was like really, really sad, and I was like, well, I'll just start reading the Bible like I always do. And I read the Bible. I opened the Bible and I went to read it, and I couldn't understand it, which that was my communication. And like, I would pray to God and stuff like that, but that was like what gave me comfort. And I went into utter darkness at that point. Like, and all these thoughts started, even God has forsaken you. That's what I was hearing. Even God has forsaken you. Like, nobody, you've burned every bridge. Now you're alone. You're going to die. Like, that type of a lie started enveloping me. And I had a roommate, or not a roommate, a bunkie is what they call it. And he was younger. And I remember laying, crying silently to myself, like, God, please, please don't give up on me. Please, like, you know, like just reaching out to God. And that happened for like 2 days, like just utter despair. And I opened the Bible, you know, kept trying, and I opened the Bible, and it was like it made sense again. And I read it, and it was so moving, and so like it was, oh, God hasn't forgiven me. And it was like God, and I could feel it in my spirit, like, I have not forsaken you. I never will. And I opened that Bible and I'm reading it, and I have a distinct memory of tears falling down onto the pages of like, you believe in you're not going to give up on me. And then right after that, I found out that I was going to be able to have a place to stay in Texas, not California. And then shortly after that, I found out that I was going to have a job when I got there. And then my mom started talking to me again, because like it was like, hey, you're going to go somewhere else, and like, you know, you're going to try to get your life right. And so all these things, God started moving and making way for me. Well,
I love that. I love that when you connect and you actually just completely yield, you are putting yourself in alignment and all doors open up.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about, you're like, hey, my hands are off the wheel at this point. I think it's beautiful to me.
I think it's, you know, it says, there's a scripture that says, those who cry out to the Lord in truth He will answer them. And I was like, oh, that's nice, But then I was like, wait, in truth, what does that mean? And it's like those who authentically and like the purest of their heart are crying out to the Lord, He will answer them. And it's like, I cried out for the Lord. I asked Him to speak me. He didn't come to me. It's like, but how authentic were you in that? Were you just like flippantly like, hey, if you're real, then talk to me, or are you reaching out like with your heart, like with no
your
agenda,
innermost being,
with no agenda, but like, God, I need you. And it's like, there's also that confusing of like, well, why do you need to get to that level? And I don't have the full answer for that, but I know that it's so much more impactful.
Yeah.
It's life changing when it's like you're connecting to Him in that raw of a level, that when He answers, versus if you're just flippant about it and He answers, it's not like it's real.
Yeah.
It's like kind of, you can easily brush it off. So anyways, that happened. But, and then I continued to read the Bible every single day. That's what I would do. And, but I had no real community. Like I got into a church and got baptized, but I didn't have any community. And that was the downfall of me at that time, which is important. You need community. You need people who are like-minded and following you. And I had a church. It's just, I didn't have anyone who was my age. Like everyone who was my age, 18 and older, like 18 to 30 really, moved off, because I lived in this town called Goldthwaite, which is like population 1,000. I don't know, like really small. And
which I think is sweet because it's only like an hour from my actual hometown.
Yeah.
It's like Anthony and I were around each other all along. Didn't know
Right.
it.
That's interesting.
And Brad and KK's ranch is right there.
Huh.
Yeah, like all of our friends.
Like literally.
Oh, wow.
Brad's ranch is like 10 minutes from there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyways,
It's like we're all connected.
We really are.
yeah.
Something.
And I actually, before I moved to California, I had lived in Longview, which is like, what? You were right down the street. My sister was born in Longview.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. But anyways, full circles, right? But yeah, so I eventually, I didn't have any community, and I wasn't getting that supernatural experience. All I was doing is reading the Bible, and I was believing and praying to God, but I wasn't getting fulfilled in that, the real desire that I had. And so, I eventually started smoking weed again. And then I started hooking up with like this witch that at the time I didn't know was a witch, but she was, and I was committing adultery, which was really bad. Highly don't recommend that. But
that is not the way.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
no.
But I was in complete utter darkness at this time, and this is where I say like, hey, like, oh, it doesn't happen all at once, but God was slowly working. And one of the first truth that He was establishing in me was, I love you, and I'm never leaving you. I never will leave you. And that's what He was establishing me as a kid, is like, God is always love. My mom would say, God is always love. He can turn to you. My greatest power is love.
Yeah.
Like I could see these continual things of like God establishing in me and priming me and setting me up for that. And even later on, I found out like when you made that prayer, like, hey, when were you saved? Yeah, everyone asked that, when were you saved? And I was like, I don't really know,
All
but
along?
I do know, all along. But I do know that when I made that prayer when I was 6 years old, it put a target on me,
Yeah.
a target of heaven, and God was going to make every roadblock. That's what He told me. Because I would do things that were far less worse than my friends.
Yeah.
They would get away constantly, and I was always confused of like, I barely do anything. Why am I the one who's getting it? And later on, God was like, I was putting roadblocks in your road, little buddy. Like you were chosen, and because you answered the call. Because that's what the thing is. Many are called, but few are chosen, and those who are chosen are the ones who answer the call. That's everyone's called.
Yeah.
Every single person in the world is called. It's just, are you gonna answer that call?
Yeah.
And then you will be chosen. The Lord searches to and fro throughout the world, seeking who He can display His strength on their behalf, for those who are pure in heart, who want to know the Lord.
Yeah.
Like I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what it's saying. And
what is that? 2 Chronicles 16:9. Pretty sure.
Are you asking me?
Marley,
I'm pretty sure that's it.
But anyway, so yeah, I got into real darkness, and it got to the point that I started to feel like I was gonna die.
Yeah.
Like literally, I thought I was gonna die. which I would have these feelings right before I get locked up. Not die, but like, oh, you're about to have to pay the price for what you've been living. You know, it's your time. Your candle wick is burning out. Like, and that's what I was feeling. But this time it felt like you're gonna die. And I remember I did some cold medicine. If you do a bunch of it, it'll make you hallucinate. And a lot of hallucinations are actually you're engaging with the demonic realm, but really the spirit realm. You know, there's several layers to it, in my belief, and like one of them being there's the layer of open spirit where both light and darkness operate, where a lot of the battles of consciousness happen, battles of what truth are you going to live by happen. And then there's the holy heaven, which is like there's no darkness there. It's God's realm. It's the kingdom of heaven.
It's a different dimension.
It's different dimension, exactly. So anyways, so I did the cold medicine, and I did it, you know, I had a lot of experiences like this when I would do different things like that. But in this particular instance, I was feeling that death like really strong. And I saw above me on my roof, like, you know, like when a rock hits water, it like ripples.
Yeah.
That's what I was seeing on my roof, like, whoa, 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 like that.
Yeah.
And I could hear it like, whoa, 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 whoa. And like my whole
massive
earth,
sound waves.
Yeah, and my whole earth was shaking. And it started to open up, and there were demons and angels fighting to get into my room.
Yeah.
And I just was doing this, and it's hilarious thinking about it, but I was going, Jesus! Like at the top of my lungs, because I was living in this little house, like a studio house, apartment type thing, by myself. And I was screaming at the top of lungs, Jesus! And those like, it was like the demons, like these like really emaciated, like skeletal flesh looking things were like crawling, like, you know, like out of the ceiling, and angels were pulling them back, like boom, 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 like that. Which reminds me, I saw my brother get possessed, and he contorted like you see on like House of Horrors or whatever, like walking like with that like weird backwards hand and like all fours. He was walking, he was crawling like that, and he was going, his head was contorting like crazy, and he was saying, I am a goblin, which is because we were doing a bunch of cold medicine, and that's what Lil Wayne does.
Yep.
What's a goon to a goblin? Nothing. It's because he was engaging with the goblin spirit. There's a goblin spirit, mind you.
Oh, yeah.
And so my brother was possessed by the goblin spirit, and during that time he started to get into really high high level new age stuff, to where he started seeing hexagonal patterns, and he could break through the hexagonal patterns and go into the spirit. And he would draw the demonic entities that he would see, and they were DMT figures. Like he showed me, he sent me later on like pictures that people do, and he's like, that's exactly like the things that I would see. And if you've ever seen them, you can look it up, like DMT, spirits,
it's consistent.
Or whatever. And but these ones, like, they have like hexagonal type patterns and faces. And so anyways, that's what he was seeing. And he was looking it up online. He called a line, and he was like telling the guy about what he believes, and he was talking about frequency. He would like start singing and go into the spirit. And the guy was so impressed. Like, this is some high level guy who like writes papers and stuff. He was so impressed that he wanted to, he's like, can I pray for you? Can I bless you? And he was like, Austin's like, yeah, you know, sure, whatever, you know. And the guy starts doing it. And Austin probably isn't going to like that I'm telling this, because he felt kind of, he's probably over it now, but anyways, I'm his brother, so he can get mad at me. But yeah, the guy started praying for him, and then he realized the guy was a shaman.
I was about to say, so this guy is actually full on in witchcraft.
Yeah.
And Austin is yielding to this thing.
Yeah, and he's about to like curse him, basically.
Yeah.
Like, not in his mind, he's not cursing him, he's
blessing
him with but he was about to highly open him up to the demonic, which he was already getting possessed at that point. And so, but he realized it, and like he got stone cold sober and like hung up the phone. So anyways, that happened. But going back, so yeah, I'm having these angels and stuff, and like Austin always, my brother, would always have like supernatural, crazy experiences.
Yeah.
You know, he saw somebody possessed by Ra, like the Egyptian god. This guy went down to San Francisco, did a bunch of acid, and came back never the
Mhm.
same.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he was talking about like, oh yeah, have you ever heard about Raw? Like he was telling my brother this, and he's
Yeah.
like, and Austin's like, well, yeah, tell me more. Like just trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Because Austin is the kindest person, like talking to him.
And he was like, yeah, like tell me about him. And he's like, Raw, like when he gets a hold of you, it's just like you're so empowered. You're just like, Raw, like that. Like,
Yeah.
and he said it's like he was like getting into it, like, ah!
Yeah.
And then Austin started like, hey, that's not good. Like you shouldn't do that. And then the guy's face contorted, and he started talking in a different voice.
Yeah.
And he said, you don't know what you're talking about.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Austin said, I do, and I'm in the name of Jesus at this time.
Wow.
And then the guy just is like fussing at him and like getting really, really angry. And like
Mhm.
then he snapped back to normal.
Mm.
And Austin's like, well, dude, what was that about? And he's like, what are you talking about? He had no clue that had just happened.
Oh yeah, kicked
So-
into the altered state.
Yeah. So anyways, like different things like that. So anyways, I'm having that experience of Jesus calling out.
Yeah.
And so then like that happens, and I kind of am settling down into the trip, and then my brother calls me and he says, Anthony, like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Like, I'm worried about you. And I'm like, I'm fine, like, which really I was not fine, but I'm like, I'm fine. Everything's good. Like, and he's like, no, like, what's going on? And I was like, dude, I'm fine. I promise you. And then all of a sudden he gets like quiet, and then he's like, you need to call out to God. You need, whatever you're doing, you need to get out of it.
Mm.
And he's like, and my brother's very skeptical. He doesn't like just throw visions or anything. Like, even though he's like, dude, you have some of the most real stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you're by any means, he's not flaky, is what I'm trying to say. But he says, whatever's going on, right? Whatever you're doing, whatever's happening, you need to stop. I see Satan with a knife to your neck.
Mm.
And the angels are holding him back, which literally had just had that vision of angels pulling demons from entering into my room.
When you feeling that death
Yes.
on you, like
Yeah.
it's upon you.
And it hit me stone cold sober. And when he said that, I instantly saw the vision.
Mhm.
Like there wasn't like I imagined what he was saying. It was like, boom, I saw it.
like it came right
It
across
came
your
right
plate.
over my almost like open vision.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Satan like a like this like blood like black like leaking out, and like his teeth were like razor sharp.
Yeah.
And he was like viciously like wanting to kill me, like like really, really, which I've had dreams where like those demons they get almost into like a sexual frenzy
Yeah.
of anticipation and excitement when they're gonna kill you,
Yeah.
and when they're gonna sacrifice you, really.
Yeah.
It's like they can't wait. They're like, they're about to get their fix, which is But anyway, so yeah, he.
Well,
saw
that's
that.
all the way. This goes all the way back. This is not just something
No.
like whatever today. Like
Yeah.
that's what the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
Like that
Oh,
was
yeah.
what was going on
Exactly.
then. It's
Uh-huh.
actually like back then, and it's also today.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's actually just what is happening on the
Yeah.
other side of the tracks.
Yeah. It's the same things,
Mhm.
hmm
same beings.
So-
Yeah, same beings.
That happened, and then I moved into a haunted house, and I ended up finding there's a hexagon under my bed.
Wow.
In black. The only reason I couldn't see it is because it was in black
Yeah.
light marker.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason,
Wow.
I decided to get a black light, and then that's when I found it, was the hexagon. Because I could see the glow of it, and I was like, what the heck is this? And I
Yeah.
kind of moved my bed, and it was a hexagon.
Wow.
There was a Ouija board that was found in the attic by the people before us. Lots of everyone said that house is haunted, but for some reason we didn't care. We were just high, and we are just like, hey,
Who all was living in
Yeah.
this haunted house?
me and two friends,
Okay,
and
you're in Goldthwaite, right?
yeah, Goldthwaite, and everyone says the house is haunted. Like,
Yeah.
this is like kind of a new thing, but we didn't care.
It's what everybody in the town knew.
Mm-hmm. And so, anyways, that's where I'm living. This is right before I moved to Tyler, and like my life really radically changes. And I'm having that affair with the witch girl. And my friend that's living in my house, I find out that he's into Santeria,
Mm-hmm.
black magic. And his grandma's his grandma's a witch, and his another friend's that he used to live with, his grandma's witch, which his grandma I took care of. So I'm like surrounded by these witches, which
Oh, yeah.
at this point she was paralyzed. Like I took care because I was a nurse aide, and so like, And I knew, like, you're in this state because of what you did,
Yeah.
because of what you engaged with, like,
What you agreed with.
Yeah, which, is terrible, sad thing. I have compassion for her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But, that's what happened. And his house was super dark, the other guy. And, a lot of things would go on there, a lot of drugs and stuff. But, anyways, that was the friend of the friend. And then my friend, we called him Frog. That was his nickname because he kind of favored a frog. And he like wore it with honor.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he lived in the house and he would like talk to me about different witchcraft that had come out and stuff. And, he knew I was Christian and stuff. But anyways, every night I would walk up the stairs, I would feel this demon, like get in my face, and it would like flash like a strobe light in front of my face. And I would see this demon's face, and it had such hatred and it wanted to push me down the stairs and kill me. And it would shake me so much that I would sprint up the stairs, like, because we had stairs that went up and then back up, like you go.
So
up.
you felt the urge to like run up them, to get over with.
It felt cold. It felt very scary right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, ooh, like where you're just like, oh, that didn't feel good. And so every night that would happen. In the dark, I would be going up the stairs, and then I'd just run up, and it would be at a specific spot.
Yeah.
And so,
I think that happens to a lot of people. They may not see it like in the spirit or whatever, but they have that feeling.
Oh yeah.
And they just could dismiss it at times. But it's like, no, that thing's real.
Yeah.
Like, even though like demons put off even like temperatures.
Yeah.
Oh
like,
yeah.
You can feel it.
Yeah. But yeah, so then I saw that actually manifest in my real life. A couple weeks, maybe a week or two later, this had been happening for months, mind you. But me and my other friend, not Frog, but Dylan, we got in a fight, and we had this like little like waist high railing on our stairs, and the way it happened is that waist high railing like would go straight to the bottom, the second floor, because it was a 2-story house. So the first floor would go straight to the first floor, and I'm sitting on it, and we're arguing back and forth like "F you," da da da. And then his face contorted, voice changed, and he said, "I could just push you off this. I could just push you down there." And I knew instantly, like,
It was that voice of that demon.
yeah, but I didn't take, like, I was like, dang, I've been feeling that, but I didn't, like, in my numbness, and I didn't fully, like, oh, that's the demon talking, but it scared me, like, ooh, like, oh, but I was like, F you, and I got all the way from the stairs. And so anyways, then I'm calling out Jesus again, because I keep feeling the spirit of death on me. And I'm like, God, will you help me? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, please save me. I don't have any power, to save my life. And maybe the next night, my brother calls me and says, hey, I met this prophet. His name's Dennis. And like, he really speaks the word of God. And it was like, oh, like I've been looking for this, And mind you, you guys know Dennis, but like 20 years ago, Dennis was like hitting high level prophetic, like people like called him Prophet Dennis. Like, that's how much. And there's he's human, but anyways,
I just laugh because I know where this story is going.
Yeah. And
this is my favorite part. I'm not gonna lie.
So he's like, hey, I met this prophet, and he's in a wheelchair, and we're gonna come down and visit you. And I was like, nah. And he's like, no, we're coming down to visit you. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever, I'm like, he's legit like a prophet. And my brother's like, yeah. And like, if my brother's saying that, that means like, no, he has some real stuff to back it up. Like, it's not because he's like, no, that dude's fake or whatever, like, I don't believe that, whatever. And so anyways, now on the other side of the story, Austin and Dennis were fully convinced they were coming to save me. They were like, Austin was like, something's going on with Anthony, and we're saving him, and we're taking him back with us. We're not taking no for an answer. But they're coming to me. They're just coming to visit me. And so anyways, they come down.
They're like two little CIA agents.
I know it. I'm sitting here
like
going into like, oh, they were probably talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm watching them.
There was such destiny on the way over there. They could feel the presence of the Lord. Like, oh, we're
going to
like,
save him.
We've been ordained to do a mission by God.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so, and I'm over there on the other end, like crying out to Jesus to save me, and not letting Austin or Dennis know well, I don't know Dennis, so obviously I'm not them, but not letting him know at how much terror I'm in, other than that one experience he had, which was probably 6 months ago. So, some time had gone by for when he saw that vision of Satan with a knife at my neck. And mind you, the person that I was having an affair with, her husband was about to become a cop. Okay, so that's some backstory that you need to know. So, anyways, they come down, and little by little, I let them know like what level of darkness I'm in. And so then we're staying. It's nighttime, and they just start praying over me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, And I'm not against it because I believe in God. I love God. And so then Dennis goes into a mode like I haven't seen Dennis like this ever after this, but he goes into a mode and he starts prophesying over me and speaking destiny, like real destiny. And this is the first taste of no, I had one other taste. Back up, maybe 5 to 10 years before, me and my brother were standing on a cliff, and we had this feeling of and it was after I had gotten back from rehab. My mom went flipping nuts on me because my brother burned some like incense or something, and it smelled like weed, and she thought we were smoking weed, and so she went psycho on us and kicked us out. And I remember I had this fresh new hope of I'm gonna do good, and then I get crushed right there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're sitting on this faith and we're talking, and we could just feel such destiny, and we're like I really believe we're meant to do something like save the world.
Yeah.
We had this conversation going on, and the wind was blowing, and it was twilight. We're sitting over this cliff, and Austin says, yeah. And he said, Mama's always said that we're special. There's something special about us. And, at that time, it wasn't it didn't feel of course your mom says that about you. It was just at that moment, it was just so raw. It felt powerful.
Yeah.
So that was one other instance that I had of no, I'm meant to be great, And so, thinking big picture way beyond my expectations, raising way beyond. So anyways, Dennis starts praying, prophesying over me. He's talking about my calling and my destiny. And honestly, I don't remember half of what he spoke, but I remember the feeling of it. And it was waves of golden light were strobing over me, whoom, whoom. And I remember kind of confused and I don't know what to think about this, but this feels so good that I'm rolling with it. Right. And so I'm getting layers and layers of revival, almost empowered. And then they're we're gonna anoint you. And so they get this bottle of oil, and I don't know where the bottle of oil came from, but I guess they were prepared.
Probably car oil.
They probably brought it. They planned this. They
planned it.
But what if they had a full jar sitting in the back of the car?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
They had a full container for sure. But
they knew you needed it all.
Yeah.
So, but they didn't do the little cross on your forehead. No, they
dumped you?
They rubbed it completely head to toe over me. I think I was in my underwear, fully head to toe.
Yeah.
Come to find out later on, that's how they anoint the kings. They don't do just a little bit. They do their entire body. And my brother did it too. He anointed himself. And so
I love it.
We both got anointed head to toe. And I had 2 dogs. I had one, Roxy. She's actually my brother's dog now. And then I had another one. I can't even remember her name right now, but she was a little tiny puppy. And they're both running around playing fully healthy, nothing wrong with them. There was no background of any health history of that would say anything's wrong with them. Right after this, though, as soon as they get done praying over me, I feel a weight leave me from that empowerment of just I felt something coming off of me. And then that dog, the little baby one, not Roxy, throws up black blood everywhere that smells like death and then runs away. And we never see her again. Just sounds kind of familiar, like the herd of pigs that Jesus casted the demons onto and they ran off the cliff.
Yeah.
Same thing happened to this dog. So that spirit of death left me and went into that dog. That's what I'm fully 100% convinced on. And later on, what I found out is that Austin said something, and he said it what he said when he saw that vision of the of Satan with the knife tech. He said it just cold as day, I know how you were gonna get killed. I know how that spirit of death was gonna get you. And I was like, what? And he's like, that cop knew. He knew, like, because we lived in a small town, so it's like he knew what was going on, and he was just waiting to become a cop and to pick you up one day and take you out into backcountry and kill you and completely get away with it. And when he said it, it wasn't like, yeah, I could see that. It was like, it struck me like, whoa.
What he said was so true.
Yeah.
It rung, you know, and I didn't fully 100% but believe it at that time, but I was like, yeah, that feels like that could really be it.
Yeah.
And then whenever I was going over my testimony, like maybe 2 years later, God reminded me of that, and he's like, I felt God say to me, like, no, that's 100% what was going to happen. That spirit of death, which I have all the other evidence that there was a spirit of death on me.
Yeah.
You know, it trying to kill me by pushing me down the stairs, or at least paralyze me. So, and then
try to squash anything that you're called to do.
Yeah. And then after that, I went to Tyler, and that's how day one of Christianity was for me. Oh, wait, I forgot to mention, the house became so eerie and haunted at that point that, number one, Austin always likes to mention this. There was a cockroach that was circling along the top of the ceiling.
Oh, wow.
Like for hours, nonstop. Like weird, eerie, like.
I had that. Yeah, I had that happen to me one time.
Really? And so anyways, that happened, and then it got so eerie that Austin's like, F this, we're out of here, we can't be here. And they convinced me that I'm moving to Tyler, and I got a spot to live with my grandma who lived in Tyler. She agreed to let me come. And so we left in the middle of the night, and we decided we were going to sleep at my church in the grass. So my first day of Christian is waking as a Christian.
Yeah, as a true Christian, moving in the Matthew 6:33.
Yeah, all or nothing. I wake up in the lawn of a church.
It's just
day
funny.
one of Christianity. So that's my testimony in that kind of long-winded version. And there's so much more. So
that's amazing.
So kind of just like looking back on it, why do you feel like that the Lord brought all those things up for you? Like, what do you feel like is your true purpose and destiny? Like being able to look at that almost like on a timeline. You know what I'm saying?
I think several things. One is that I'm meant to show people that God is love. And I forgot to mention too, one of the things that broke off me that very next day, I always had this lie that would be, you're just going to screw it up anyways. You're just going to F it up. That's like, you will F this up and you'll be back. Because it's what happened to me constantly. And I would declare it over myself. And I was feeling that. And then God told me, hey, Anthony, your calling, your destiny is inevitable. Your life with me is inevitable. You can only procrastinate it. And there was something about so empowering that it wasn't up to me, that instantly that weight broke off of me. And I was like, boom, free from that point.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think one of the things that I'm called is to show people that God is love first and foremost, and all the rules and regulations, all that stuff is a lie, and to just show them the raw love of God. Also to show them that God never leaves nor forsakes them. I think that I'm meant to really encounter the demonic and bring people out of utter darkness, to bring deliverance to people. And then obviously I think I'm called to inspire people into a supernatural life with God, to inspire people into greatness. So, I mean, those are like very simply stated what it is. There's so much more into that.
Well, yeah, but it's cool because you can go and look throughout. I think everybody can go look through their own story and see these big highlight points and just how the whole narrative has gone through. And you'll see the themes that the Lord has really laid out throughout your entire life. Yes. And so then to be able to extract like, okay, these are actually the things that tried to set me back. These are the things that tried to sabotage me my whole life. Yeah. But then this is the gold that pulls from it, because this is really what I'm called to and created to be in.
Yeah. It's real. Beautiful story. And I've never heard it all the way through like that.
Oh, really?
You've told me, and I've heard it in bits and pieces. Wow.
Pretty intense, isn't
It is, yeah.
I love the
It's so
totality
cool.
of it, though.
I do too.
And
you
And he
think
was
about-
there all along,
Uh-huh.
like you said, from like 6,
Yeah.
all the way up.
And you think about like my earthly father was the opposite of what God was,
Mm-hmm.
and it was positioned that way. Obviously, my dad's strings were getting pulled by his trauma and his alcoholic abuse and all that. And mind you, when I left for Tyler, my addiction left me. I never once I found, because one thing I think addiction is, just to get say this, addiction is hunger.
Yeah.
And all it is hunger for what that void really needs to be filled by is God.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I found the true authentic, that God speaks in a very real way, that God has a calling and a purpose for me, that God came and saved me
Yeah.
and ran after me,
Mhm.
that he came into my life in a very real supernatural way. And I eventually met Daniel and
Mm-hmm.
and had the proper teaching to back up these beliefs. As soon as I had that void filled, there was no need for the addiction again. Like I've never smoked weed ever since then. So-
Yeah.
and that was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Well,
so,
it becomes a vice that you like. It's like when you replace it with the truth, it's like the rest of
Mhm.
it's relative.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
nothing.
such a lesser. It's
And
like,
that's not to say that, like, sometimes, I'll have the temptation of, like, it'd be cool to, like, get high right now.
Sure.
And just, like, enjoy. Because, there is an enjoyable part of it, and that's why people do it.
mhm.
So I don't want to say, like, hey, like, oh, I have no urge. It's just that urge is, like, nothing compared to the presence of God.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But going back to, like, my dad is, like, he was the opposite image, and it was strategic by the enemy. You can go back in your life and say, how has the enemy strategically tried to
Mhm.
sabotage my life? And then you're like, okay, so he's trying to convince me of something.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the truth of the opposite of that? And oftentimes you'll find the opposite truth is what is true.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, you will always F things up.
Mhm.
You will always be dark. You will die. Truth? No, actually, your destiny with me is inevitable. You are meant to be great. You are meant to call and break down strongholds and to empower people.
Yeah.
And then my dad, hey, he's an abusive, drunk father who didn't know how to love, who told you to have a hard heart. No, God is, I am love. I'm patient. I'm gentle. I'm lowly in heart.
I gave you a
Come,
heart of flesh.
I
Yeah.
gave you a heart of flesh. Experience the emotions. So,
Mm-hmm.
you look at it and you can see that, and then you can realize, like, the truths that the enemy or the lies that the enemy was trying to put in you, and the truths that he was trying to smother.
Uh-huh.
There's like a filter, I think, like if you look throughout your life, a filter that tries to even filter who God is
Mhm.
from your experiences.
Yeah.
And so it's like going back to when you're rooted and grounded in the fact that God is love, period,
Mm-hmm.
and that his goodness surrounds everything. It's like he's not trying to cast people into hell all the
Yeah.
time.
Right.
Like he's not bipolar. He's not this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It can let those things almost part like the Red Sea, and you'll be
Yeah.
able to see things clearly in
Mhm.
your own life
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you look
No.
through the filter that God is good.
Yeah.
And-
Which is not a filter.
No,
it's
it's-
him. It's like,
It is the filter of heaven, though, I
yeah,
think.
Here's the
definitely.
It's the
thing,
lens
too.
of it.
Yeah.
True evidence of the love of God isn't condemnation and shame.
Totally.
Right.
Hey, you're love God and choose him, or you're going to hell, and
Mhm.
you're a worthless sinner. That is a lie.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, it is. But what the true love of God, it causes repentance out of inspired freedom, out of
Uh-huh.
value, out of calling.
And repentance is literally just changing your mind on the situation.
Yeah. And
Like-
it's his goodness that leads to repentance.
Yeah. It's
Mhm.
like when Anthony was surrounded by the goodness, when
Yeah.
Mhm.
Austin and Dennis came and valued him so much
Yeah.
that they drove across Texas.
Yeah.
It's
With
like
oil.
with
Probably.
oil.
yeah.
That's so
Like
sweet.
there was so much value there.
Yeah.
He changed his mind. He
Well,
was
yeah.
like, "Oh,
More-
I'm not going to do weed anymore."
Mhm.
Well, and more importantly, it was God, like,
Yeah.
through them.
Well, yeah,
doing that. Yeah. But I think, like, that you think about, like, I just read and I shared it with you guys earlier this week, but of Zacchaeus up in that tree and God
Mhm.
calling him out of the tree and saying, "I want to have dinner with you."
Yeah.
And that
Mhm.
inspired repentance. Like, hey, I'm gonna stop stealing from people. I'm actually gonna
Mhm.
pay 4 times of what I did, and I'm gonna do right. And God didn't even say, "Hey, you're doing wrong." He
Yeah.
never said that. He just said, "Hey, I value you. Let's have dinner.
Yeah.
Like, I love you." And that caused a change of mind in him of like, I will leave everything and I'm going for you.
Yeah.
If you read the Bible, Jesus does not call out people's sin.
No.
Mhm.
He doesn't. Even the
Mhm.
woman, we've talked about this a lot, the woman
Mhm.
in adultery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't like expose her
No.
at all.
No.
He was just like, hey, I love you. Just don't do it again.
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing that's
Like,
hurting
this is
you.
poison to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But even Zacchaeus, I mean, all the dudes, really.
I know it.
Just go read it.
I know it. So sweet. That's how he really is, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how I related so much to your just little parts of it.
Mm.
It was like, okay, that's God.
Yeah.
Little things stood out to me, like the minister guy in Juvenile.
Oh, yeah.
What you seeing his connection and saying that's real.
Yeah.
That dude knows God.
Yes.
I relate to that.
Yeah.
When I came to Hoff, I saw that, and I was
Yeah.
like, these people know God. This
Yeah.
is it.
I think that's what it is that draws people out, though.
It is.
It's when it's the transference of like, no, they really know something.
when you see it. Yes.
and it pulls you into the reality of it
Mhm.
versus like being indoctrinated.
Yeah.
It's like the what the people said when they heard Jesus, like, he doesn't talk like the scribes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this dude holds weight. Like, he knows what he's talking about. Like,
Mhm. And the
he's-
thing, another one is like every single foundation that you have or you stand on can be shaken and it'll crumble, but like
Yeah.
he's always there no matter what. So
Yeah.
like you just being in there, like calling out to him,
yeah,
in the room, like isolated by yourself.
I know.
It's like, there he is.
Yeah.
He's been with me all along.
And I
Yeah.
can see the character defects that I had
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
out of those traumas later on, like, always wanting to be accepted and wanting to be the center of attention and wanting to please people. And it's like, because you were rejected by your family, because
Yeah.
you were taught that you weren't worthy, and then the works that I would like always try to be the best at everything. I always had to win because your dad taught you that if you don't win, then you don't deserve love. Like,
Mhm.
he was super competitive. And then also that if your actions are bad, your family will just leave you. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I had to rewire, like, none of that can happen with God. Like, God is always there.
Mhm.
And, it takes processing and a willingness to yield to his voice and accept, hey, you know what, I can kind of be needy on people and
Yeah.
draw from them. And, that's a hard thing to swallow. But when you're willing to face it, there's so much freedom that can go in it with God. You
Mhm.
don't just go in trying to pull that out. You follow the leading of God, which is he's been gracious to do. So,
Mhm.
I think when things are presented, so, when you do see your character defects and you're like, oh, wow, I have a real issue with authority.
Mhm.
Like, you don't take on, like you were talking about, you don't take on the shame, you don't take on the condemnation, you
Mhm.
just acknowledge it for what it is. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that thing was never intended to be within me
Yeah.
from the beginning. Like, he didn't think of me with a character
Mm-mm.
defect.
No.
He didn't put that in there. The Lord created me to be whole.
Mhm.
This has been a thing that's been preventing me from walking in who I really am.
Yeah.
So it's just surrendering that thing.
And it's a relief to see it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, that's not mine.
It's not even me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not even me. So you can let it go because it was never you to begin with.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well,
Okay,
it's
so
amazing.
I love your story.
I do too.
really do. It's
And like right now, I'm not going to say this to every guest we have on the show, but like you're one of the most solid people I know.
mm-hmm.
Legitimately. I've heard other people say it too. so
It's
I
because he
just-
works out.
Because you work
I'm
out.
just kidding.
Yeah. But no,
Yeah.
even when we're like running together and stuff, I feel like we could probably take on the world. Get some
Yeah.
if we get jumped or something.
Yeah.
I'd rather have I want to have Anthony with me
No doubt.
for some reason,
No doubt. He brings that into every room
Yeah.
he walks
I think
into.
a big
That's what I
part
feel
of it
like.
is- and I think anyone can be that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the big part is the trauma that I've been through and the willingness to forgive and to walk out of it and to be
Yeah.
whole.
100%.
And in the way that my mom raised me in being love and being pure and not judging people, like I don't have any of those, like I remember I had a friend, one of my best friends, he was African American, and he said, like, you're my only white friend that I don't feel like my color even comes into play.
Hmm.
Like, And to me, it was shocking. Like, what? Like, people talk about that? Like, it didn't
Yeah.
even register in my mind. But I guess I bring that up because, like, it's so important to not eat of the fruit of judgment, to not have that, like, and to never be in the place of, like, I'm empowered to, like, hold on to pain or judgment or hate.
Right.
Mhm. Or separatism. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm over here, you're over there. It's like,
Mhm.
there's no division.
Yeah.
That's what judgment does. Judgment always creates division,
Uh-huh.
creates sides, and it's like there are no sides.
What matters is what God says about you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's it. You're not
Mhm.
defined by anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have one question
Okay.
that I think would be really cool.
I think we should have a part 2, by the way.
We
Oh
will.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What is one belief that might be far-fetched but beneficial that you feel like in
you
this
want to open
space?
this can of worms?
This can be the lead into part 2, but
All
just
right.
like one
Yeah.
thing that you're like,
Which one do you guys want to go into?
I mean,
Because I told you them all right before we started.
oh man.
Yeah.
Because each of them are a topic in themselves.
I like the original one. Like
Okay, the first
the
one.
thing that you've been learning
One
in this
belief.
space.
Oh, okay.
So the biggest belief, and this isn't even far-fetched to me, to be honest. Like, I think this is Christianity, but I think it's the most empowering. It's the center of a Christian life. But basically to attain the heart and mind of God, but to a level where you're constantly walking in awareness/unity of it. Like, I think we're called to never be unconscious of the fact that God is in us and with us,
Mhm.
and to feel his emotions, his thoughts. Like, not even be like, hey, God, what do you think about this? Like, or, hey, let me silence my brain for a minute and see where God is in this. Like,
Mhm.
but to be such at unity that your feelings, your thoughts are God's,
Mhm.
and not in an arrogant way of like, it's in humility,
Mhm.
but not in an arrogant way of like, I'm always right, but in a way of like, I'm so in alignment with God, and I'm so conscious in disciplining my heart and mind to be joined to God at all times.
It's like his plans and purpose in every space you walk into.
Mm.
And in
Yeah.
each moment, it's like, what's the Lord actually wanting to impart here?
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I think that this is so valuable.
Yeah.
I think that being at the end of a podcast, like, do we want to talk about this at the very end of an hour and 30 minutes?
Yeah, I do.
I'm down.
Okay. I
I
was just making sure.
the
like,
reason
Let's
I
go
like
into
this, the reason I like this is because it leaves people with
I gotcha.
something to
Yeah.
go into.
Yeah.
And it's like a thing of, well, what is Christianity
Yeah.
really? What is it, this indoctrination that I've had my entire life? Or is it these supernatural
Mhm.
experiences
Mm-hmm.
of me learning to be connected to God in all things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
No,
And
yeah,
it's
no.
not even going back to that, like having complete and total unity with him, where it's not like, no, he's some separate somewhere else where I have to ask him for,
Mhm.
but he wants that too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just me trying to or wanting to attain it, but it's like
No.
him, like, yes, join me.
Which
He
is
paid for
And
this.
it's so, yeah.
what we've talked about. Like the ancient way is
Mm-hmm.
the intertwining of the earth realm and the spirit realm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They overlap.
They
yeah.
overlap. They're completely intertwined. And it's, Anthony had his experiences that manifested in some crazy supernatural ways.
Yeah.
And I think even if people feel like, well, wow, that's really out there and I don't have any kind of experiences
Mhm.
like that, you will always see God drop
Yeah.
different things in
Yeah.
different times.
And honestly, when I first came into this, like, I didn't realize the level of experiences that I had, because I was just like, like, I guess I was just numb to it,
Mhm.
and I was dumb to it, and I would say, like, man, I don't really have that many
Stories,
things. And then,
yeah.
like, you guys are like, you're crazy. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But I would say to myself, like, man, I don't, like, God didn't really show up much in my life, like, a little here or there, but like mainly it was just my faith, and then when I started to go over my life story and like really like write it down and to value it, then I was like, oh my gosh, like you were constantly knocking at my door. You were constantly protecting me
Mm-hmm.
and coming after me, because I didn't even tell you guys that I was homeless for years, and that, I had people who almost jumped me, and like I'm pretty sure an angel was with me one time to where 3 guys did not want to fight me because I just ran at them like I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think there's so many times that God has protected me and been with me, but I was numb and dumb to all of that stuff because I was spiritually dumb and I hadn't reflected on my life. So I just encourage anyone who's listening to this, like, if you feel like God hasn't done that, like, number one is go over your life with God and say, God, show me my testimony. But also, if you still don't find much, that's not saying that you're not any less valuable or anything. You say, hey, God, would you give me more?
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
I want more stories with you. I want to inspire people to know you and to experience you, because I still to this day I have experiences with God. I have things that happen to me, and but if I don't seek it out, if I don't go for it, if I'm just kind of sitting on my hands, I should say, then it doesn't happen as much. But going back to that continual connection to God, I think that's how you have that happen. Like when you walk into maturity, I'm talking about, like, we can be in such a unity with God that we're such a presence of heaven that we cause heaven to react around us. And you look at Jesus's life, right? And how he would go up on the mountain and pray and be with God. He would meditate in God, and then he would come down from that mountain, which is a picture for us. Like we're called to commune with God, or
in the secret place by ourselves.
And basically that's just praying and saying, hey, what do you have to say to me, God? Or just feeling his presence even.
Yeah.
And, he did that day and night, and he knew strategically he had to do that sometimes. He would leave the crowds and he'd go up there, and him and God would connect and get into unity. He was showing us as a picture of what he's doing, because he was fully God. He was just saying, this is what humans do.
Yeah.
This is how we do it.
Yeah.
But then he would come down and things would just pop off. And it's like, you didn't even, half the time he didn't do anything.
One of the things that the Lord showed me is, so one of the things I believe that Jesus came on the earth to do is show us what we should be walking like our lives. And yes, he came to like redeem the whole penalty and swallow up darkness.
No, for sure, yeah.
But he did everything as a man. He never did it in his divinity, right? Philippians 2 talks about it. Like he laid that thing down. And so one of the things that jumped out at me in like Mark 2:3, it says people brought him a paralytic who was carried by 4 men. And what jumped out at me is like the four men being like the reality of heaven, the 4
living creatures,
the 4 living creatures, the 4 gospels. Like it's the totality of heaven. Heaven will bring in whatever we need to like let loose, to release the thing. Like heaven is ushering everything in. We are just being present. We're being here. We're being with the Lord. We don't have to like strive out of anything.
I think when you say heaven, like, I think we are heaven. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let me back up, actually. We are gateways of heaven.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
lift up
The
your heads, O ye
ambassadors,
gates.
the conduits. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it ushers in what we need to release on this
Exactly.
plane,
Yeah.
in this
So
dimension.
we're like the catalyst.
100%.
of heaven, and the earth has to respond. And
Absolutely.
like, even going back to, that, finishing that thought of like, we're called to be such carriers of God's presence that people, angels, demons, principalities, and powers have to react. Like because you're carrying heaven. And, you look at Jesus's life, people reacted by responding in faith. He said, your faith made you well. You look at even Peter, people reacted by faith, by stepping into a shadow to be healed. It wasn't anything Peter was doing except being a conduit of heaven, being one with God. But it inspired people into acts of faith.
Yeah.
And that's what we're called to do. Hey, I can be made well. I know it. Like, so people respond in faith, or they respond in like, hey, I don't want that. Like, I'm not ready.
And
Shut down,
what's beautiful
scared.
about it, though, it puts the ball in their court.
Exactly.
And empowers them.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
then we just respond in the nature and love of God.
Yeah.
Demons, they react in fear. You think about the demons crying out like, what do you have to do with us, son of man? What are you doing here? Like, and because they feel the authority. But if you don't have it, obviously they'll test you like the
the sons of Sceva or whatever it is in
sons of
Acts.
Sceva. Like we know Paul and we know Jesus, but we don't know you. Like
clearly Paul was operating in some extremely high levels, and people were trying to emulate that. People were trying to copy the high level stuff.
But you read some of the accounts of that time and stuff, people were doing it not in the good, it wasn't
right, but they weren't doing
correct.
It with the Lord.
They weren't doing it with the Lord.
And it's like, oh, well, that's what you do. You open yourself up.
Yeah, and it was for other reasons. It wasn't the Lord.
Because the demons,
But, and then, the angels, they respond in anticipation and wanting to partnership with you.
Excitement.
The angels looked into this time.
Well, they bring that's what I love.
Marveled at it.
Yeah.
Angels are messengers, so what they're doing is they're bringing things. Like that's just their
their job title.
That's literally their job title. Yeah, that's like what they do. They're bringing things to us. They're assisting with us. They are, they're fighting on our behalf. They're doing it with us. Like
I had a vision one time, and it was about the angels and about the new creation Christians. And the thing, what they marvel the most about is that we look and act so much like God. That's what they were so marveled about, was like that they love God, and they're like this new creation looks and acts so much like God. They carry God, and it's just mind-blowing to them. So
I do think it's beautiful. Like we are the ones that are made in His image. Like in His likeness
too, I think. But
I know, but we got God inside of us.
Yeah,
like
that's the huge thing.
Yeah, sweet.
But that's what I mean by though. Like His image is like He swallowed up death.
Yeah.
To infiltrate us, like He's tabernacling in us.
Yeah. We are Him here.
Yeah.
And that's not to talk about like the New Age, like Christ consciousness stuff.
No, it's Him. Yeah, it's not.
It's not anything we're working to obtain.
No.
We're like letting go.
No, the only thing we're doing is accepting His heart and His blessing, His finished work upon our lives, and recognizing like that His thoughts, His emotions, we can come into unity with and allow it to be a part of us. And then we move in great acts of faith as well, out of compassion and love, just like Jesus. He had compassion on all the people, and so He healed them all. Like that's what it says, and it's like, so you're saying that His love and compassion is what stirred the miracles.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
And then the powers have to be exposed. Light manifests and darkness is exposed. And so, we're called to come into such a place that it shakes and breaks every control, every fallen system put into place.
Oh, yeah.
Just by us being there, just by us being a voice of truth.
And that looks like, if it's territorialism where people feel like, oh, this is my space or this is yours, like we're supposed to come in and break that apart.
Oh, yeah.
If it's like a elite system where people feel like I'm better than you and like there's this hierarchy, we're supposed to come in and transform that. Yeah, if it's the religious system, which is like uber control, like hand on top of you and squash you, we're supposed to bring the levels of freedom where people actually get to express who they really are for the first time.
Yeah, because I'm like of the belief, like that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You're supposed to seek love. Paul said, like, we preach the gospel motivated out of love.
Yeah.
Like, huh? Like, love is what inspires them and moves them to do this, to preach the gospel. And preaching the gospel means doing miracles, Hey, 100%. Go heal the sick,
raise
cause
the
the blind to see, raise the dead, open the ears of the deaf, like, free the captive. These are the things we're called to do, but it's originated out of the love of God, And I was going somewhere with that, but I forgot. So sorry, guys.
Well, that's His biggest, greatest power.
Yeah. What He told me.
That's kind of goes in with your little superhero origin story that you told us.
I remembered what I said.
Oh, okay.
That we it's not meant to be a place of work. It's not meant to be like, oh, I gotta heal these people, I gotta preach the kingdom, because you're not doing it then. You're not really doing it in the right way.
Yeah.
Like Dennis's words, I don't remember what his words were. It's what I felt. And that was the presence of God.
Yeah.
There's a quote. Oh, I don't remember who says it, but he was like, man will never remember what you say, but they'll always remember how they felt around you. And it's like, I got to find that quote.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But it's so true.
Yeah.
Like, it's the imprint, it's the emotions of God that people remember. It's, did they feel safe around you? Did they feel exposed? Or did they feel completely covered and like, oh, this is like my long lost brother.
Yeah.
This is somebody who would drive across Texas if they knew that I was kind of in a bind to come on my behalf.
Yeah, to come rescue me.
To come, like I know people. I'm just saying, I think it's brilliant.
It is.
Yeah, and so I think like that's what, if you want to be, hey, you want to be great, you want to walk in power, you want to have continual experiences with Jesus, with the angels, with demons, with people. Yeah. You want to walk in miracles, walk in love.
Yeah.
And watch. And I haven't attained it. It happens.
Even Paul says, like, I haven't obtained it, but I'm going to strive for it.
Well, and if you don't feel it, ask for it. Be like, show me what this feels like. Yeah. Show me how to love. Yeah. Teach me how to love. Yeah. And he will.
I think the biggest thing that sometimes gets misconstrued or whatever, but like love truly never seeks its own. It's not about you performing this miracle. It's about God touching them. Yeah. They're having an encounter with the God of the universe.
But I fully think like you don't even have to focus on that. Like about being selfish, because I would get to that point of like, I don't want to be selfish, and it's like, no, like all you have to do is seek God. Hey, know God, be one with God, experience God, from glory to glory, let Him transform you. Then and check your motives, like you're saying. Like, hey, what am I motivated out of here? Because if it is out of selfish fame or whatever it be, then hey, God, would you remove that from me? Would you like, I don't want to, and I'm not even going to act in that. Yeah. I'm not going to if I'm functioning in that, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. But like, I think it's meant to be the simplicity of devotion to Christ. Like
100%.
Saying, please don't stray from the simplicity of devotion to Christ. Like, we're meant to just live an overflow life that's built off the finished work of God that was manifested to us by love. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that all may be saved. Yeah. He didn't come to the world to condemn it, but to save it. There's all these things. It's like, you want to be great in love. Yeah. Walk in love. And because the most powerful instances that I've had are when I'm moved by the heart of God. Yeah. And it's like I feel invincible. I'm no longer even faith is just a byproduct of love. Like, I'm no longer even second guessing, like, what if I look weird? It's like, no, I don't care. I so love this person that I'm gonna, and I feel the presence of God empowering me. Yeah. And the words flow like no other. Like, all of these things, the acts begin to flow out of you. Yeah. But it comes out of a discipline of being present. Yeah.
And when you operate in it, I feel that it's weightless, it's simple, and it's joy. It's that rush of joy for this person in front of you, whoever it is. You can go out in the
But the reason I was even saying about like love doesn't seek its own is because that's the telltale sign you can tell somebody's fruit.
Yeah, you're out of line. Yeah.
Well, not even just within your own person, but if you're observing somebody else and you're observing this thing, it's like you can tell. Remember, like, love will never seek its own. It's not about promoting the way that it's doing it. Yeah. Like, the Lord was so humble. He was like, hey, don't go tell these people. Yeah. Like, just because I feel that there is a lens that people will observe other people's lives through, and that love gets a little tainted at that. Yeah. Like, they say they're doing it in love, but it's like,
it is something,
it's very self-promoting.
And it's intimate, too. It's not for everybody to see all that, if you're sharing with someone else, but...
Yeah. I think any time that, or like even just sharing stuff is just to spur people's faith on, never to be like, oh, well, look at how great I am. Look at all these experiences I've had. It's like.
Even him going to people and saying like, don't tell anybody this. It's like, I'm after you. This is about
it's
you.
One-on-one.
And I want you. Yeah.
That's why He poured out His Spirit out on all flesh.
Absolutely.
Because He wanted that connection one-on-one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, it's amazing.
This life is so incredibly cool.
Yeah, it is. And there's so much more. It's just...
You want to say some little sneak peeks of next episode, Anthony?
Well, we're gonna have a part 2 or 3 or
Probably
I was
6.
just
6
read
or
some of those
just
things.
consistent. Yeah.
You
Oh,
should
yeah.
read those, Anthony.
Yeah.
Throw. Are these the
Yeah.
topics?
Yeah.
Okay, well, throw them out.
And there's more to come on your next episode.
The next episode
of The Ancient Way.
You're trying to mimic
but like,
James.
here's some thoughts maybe even you can think about, like, okay, in anticipation of this next episode of, like, the listeners, some of the thoughts that I've kind of thought is like, is there an eternal hell? Because I don't think there is. I think there is a hell, but I don't think it's eternal.
Mhm.
So, or that maybe we had a choice to come down to earth.
Mhm.
I heard that you guys have kind of talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then here's a
That's
good one.
before you were born.
Yeah.
Like if you came to Earth before you were born.
Yeah.
And then here's a good one. Just because I believe in God giving people such a chance and that He's love, but what if babies that are aborted get another chance?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, like, that baby was aborted, they lost their chance to live on the earth, and they just go to now you're going to be born to the Smith family instead of the Langley family or whatever.
Yeah.
Like what if you just like go to the next portal?
Yeah, the next
The
opening.
next meat machine. Like everyone's in their spirit and like, okay, now this is your meat machine. This one got lost. Like, I mean, these are just thoughts.
Your skin is your meat machine. That's hysterical.
That's funny.
But your essence, your person is still.
It's there, yeah.
The meat suit, I should say.
What you said, meat machine?
He definitely said meat machine.
We're going to start using that. That's hilarious.
I meant to say meat suit, but
meat machine's it. That's this episode.
That's going to be the title, Meat Machine.
Anthony Smith and the Meat Machine. God.
Oh my Atlanta.
Yeah, but
wow.
I'm excited to talk about the
yeah,
things,
we'll go.
We can say so much more.
We have so much. Yeah, we have so much to go into.
And I have another one I'll tell you guys about. But we can talk about that next episode as well.
What is it? Can you say it now?
I can say it now.
Can you just leave us with it?
Well, why don't you just put a little teaser out?
Okay,
yeah,
well.
hint at it.
So, you guys were going to ask me, like, what is one of your favorite ways to engage
in
the supernatural? And I was like, hands down, it's prayer.
Mm.
And with music and then in speaking in tongues, like, I think they all come in together because I think speaking in tongues is basically just aligning your spirit, really submitting your tongue to the voice of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Him praying the unfathomable prayers. But, there's something supernatural about it that opens up like almost like this internal.
You have like clear vision.
It's internal conversation between your spirit
mm-hmm.
and God,
mm-hmm.
But all that to be said, I was thinking about it and I was like, when you get into the flow of, I was saying like aligning your heart to God. And when you really get into flow with God, the whole reality of heaven begins to unfold in front of you. That's what happens to me is like, I feel the desires of God and it, like the reality of heaven starts to like flow in front of you. And, here's like something that I believe is like a big part of heaven is the desires of God's heart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can enter into them and watch that reality unfold in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that that's part of heaven. Like, it's not just like, a place with golden streets and stuff, but it's like you get to enter into God's desires and see them manifest before you because that's what heaven is on earth,
Yeah.
And here's this is extremely interesting because there's a kind of a freedom even in prayer to go to different desires and unfold them. So you have a choice of like where you're going in heaven. There's different, it's like doorways in a sense. And I see this desire and then I'm like, it's usually the way I know is like my spirit within me is like, that feels really good. That's where I'm going like today,
Yeah.
and there's like, all these doors to go through and they're just really thoughts at that point.
Yeah.
Like the thoughts of God. And then I go into it and it's like, boom, the reality opens. And then I pray into it and I see the different, the desire unfold before me. And and it's like, I'm like sucked into it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a practical example of how you've seen that play out?
A practical example. Let's say, so, like let's say I have a God have a desire for people to be like for their families to be whole and to be like a good relationship, I'll feel that in my heart, and I'll feel that thought, and it'll feel good to me, and so then I'll choose to meditate and sit in it, and visually in my mind, I see it to begin to open, and it's like sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's a wording, sometimes it's like let the families be whole. Let's just say that's the verb, and sometimes what will it'll feel good to say it. And so I'll just roll with it. And sometimes you'll hear me even praying, like saying, let the family be whole, let the family be whole. And it's like, I feel like, even though it's like weird that I'm just chanting, but that's why the witches chant. Like there's power in words.
Yeah.
And so I'll be like, almost in a sense, chanting this, and it'll open up the reality. Or sometimes it'd just be like, let the family be whole. And I'll go into it visually. Like, I don't know. It's like I can feel my spirit projecting into that reality.
You get swallowed up by it.
Swallowed, yeah.
Yep.
It's like it's coming towards me, yet I'm coming towards it. And then I begin to see different families get whole. Like I see joy, and I feel the presence of God, happy, and I'll go into it. And depending on how, number one is how in alignment I am with that thought, and how disciplined I am to like really dive into it, the realer and realer it gets.
Yeah.
Like it gets more and more. And part of that's big is it takes practice of going into it and walking in faith. So that's like a small example.
No, that's good. Just for people who want to start to practice that, I think a good practical example helps.
I think so.
Well, and I think
people get swallowed into it.
I think this is a really good thought here, that heaven is the desires of God's heart. That is heaven. And so if you can say, oh, dang, I can enter into heaven by coming into communion with God's desires.
Yeah.
Well, like, what is your will, God? What is your desire? And I'm talking about you'll feel them coming out of your heart. You'll feel them coming into your mind. It's not like, hey, God, what do you want? Like, and you're looking for it to come out. It's like, no, what are you breathing into me? What are you speaking, Yahweh?
Yeah.
What is your will? And then it, like, you see it and you feel it,
you
develop it.
Yeah.
So, and that's one aspect of heaven. I don't think it's limited to that, but that's I thought that would be interesting for us to unfold and
absolutely
talk about. So.
We should definitely circle back to that one.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it. This is what I love so much, is that really walking in the Spirit is limitless, and experiences are limitless. Like, you can have one example of it, which I love, but it's really just how you and the Lord connect within your innermost being. Like, what is it that causes you to come alive? Some people don't like to be very visionary. They don't like to see stuff like that. They're very emotional. They feel a lot of things. They walk into a room and they'll feel the different powers and principalities in it, and that's the way that the Lord is wanting to unleash heaven through them.
It's whatever your spirit is leading into you. And what are the hungers that you have in your heart? Blessed are the hungry, because they'll see righteousness and truth or something. No, but they'll be filled with righteousness and something.
Blessed is the hungry, for they will be filled.
Blessed is the pure in heart, for they'll see God.
Field, like FEILD.
But I think that's a real important part is like, hey, don't try to do what if you feel the desire, like, dang, I really connected to the fact that, Anthony, got to pray and go into the desires of God's heart and see it visually, then you can go after that because that's a desire in your heart. But like, if you're just like, I don't relate to that, that doesn't connect to me, then you ask God, like, how can I connect to, like, what connects to me? How have you designed me? And then you cultivate that, and you'll see as you master that, then another area will open up to you. So.
Well, it's literally like we just plug in. Like we're literally a plug that just plugs into the...
and it's unique to each person. It's not like a struggle or a striving thing. It's like, this is actually fulfilling.
Oh, yeah, you totally rest into it. And you cultivate what's around you.
And that's a test of like, okay, am I in alignment with my faith? Am I like, do I feel fulfilled? Am I inspired? Does this feel like work to me?
Mm-hmm.
Am I striving? Why does it feel like work to me? Maybe you ask that question. Why am I struggling to want to engage with God?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you ask God that, and you'll oftentimes see there's a reason behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Christian life is meant to be filled with excitement and thriving and fulfillment and
Yeah.
like an abundance of overflow. That's why it calls it a river of life, not a lake of life will be in you. A
Yeah.
river of life will flow out of your innermost beings.
Mm-hmm.
And all it says if you take a drink, one drink
Yeah.
of this thing, and that will open up a river.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it takes.
Just
Yeah.
one drink of the love of God.
Yeah. Let that thing in.
Speaking of drinks, your little Dallas Cowboys mug.
Mug.
I'm not a football, sports, anything, but you trying to quietly take that
Oh,
thing
yeah.
and drink it, and then you set it down, and I couldn't hear it, and then you just looked at me and smiled.
That
I'm
was
trying
funny.
not to laugh. Yeah.
I know.
I laugh at inappropriate moments, and I feel that on here, but then I'm like, wait a minute. I'm a co-host on this thing. I can laugh
You totally
at
you have
inappropriate
permission.
moments.
You
It's
totally have
encouraged,
permission.
I think.
Yeah.
You mean how I almost spilled my drink over here?
Yeah, I saw you. And then when
Golly.
you were like, and then I shook a little bit. 'cause
It
I was
scared
like,
me.
what? Yeah.
When y'all listen back and you hear my voice like shriek, it's because I was spilling something.
Yeah. It was your tea from
Dory's
Dory's Gardens.
Yee.
Yeah.
Dory's
Inspiration
Garden.
awaits.
Do your commercial.
Inspiration awaits beyond the lavender gate.
It's beautiful.
We're drinking out of our Dory's Gardens coffee mugs.
Oh yeah, they're wonderful.
They
Yeah,
are.
That's awesome that you got those.
I look forward to
Kinda
it every
jealous.
day. It's like up here at work, it's a ritual. I make my little orange, is it cinnamon orange
Yeah.
Yeah.
tea. Yeah. Good for you.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us. We can't wait for part 2.
Yeah.
Part
And
2
3
coming to you soon. And
Yeah.
3 and 4. No.
and 4.
Until 7.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see y'all soon.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us on The Ancient Way. If you like this episode and would like to hear more, drop us a like, share with your friends, your family. If you have any feedback for us, feel free to email us at theancientwaypodcast@gmail.com. Once again, thank you so much for listening to us. We'll see you next time.